Tuesday. Welcome to the vlog slash Q&A video. It's going to be some kind of hybrid because I couldn't find time to just sit down and film. It's been a crazy few weeks, but I am determined to get this video out this weekend, answering all your questions around working abroad, working in tech. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna answer a few of them as I get ready. Today I'm going to be going into the office for a little bit, and then I'll come back home. Then maybe I'll try squeeze in a few more questions. So it'll be a hybrid of a vlog, Q&A type of thing. Right, let's go. All right, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to start with skincare, then I'm going to do my makeup. I'm already all dressed. It's still 7 in the morning. I'm going to go in around 10:30 and then come back early afternoon after lunch. Anyway, first question on the list is, how was the transition from working from here to working abroad? So transition working from Kenya to working abroad was rough. Yeah, it was rough. I feel like my first year was just chaotic, really. The culture shock that hits you, like no one can prepare you for that. And then the way it messes up with your confidence at work, the way it messes up with the way you view yourself, whether you think you deserve to be in the same room as some of the people. I guess it's dependent on your background, I guess. Because for me, what made it so daunting was the fact that I was working with a lot of senior engineers in my first team. Even my current team is very senior heavy. So there were very few people who are early in career. A lot of the people are principal engineers, senior engineers, all of that. People who've been there for 15, 20 years. And then people who've studied in all the good schools you could think about. People who went to Harvard, people who went to MIT, people who have masters and PhDs and stuff like that. And then there's little old me from Kenya with my degree from University of Nairobi. Who is a fresh grad hire, literally no other experience except like internships. So it was daunting, but I think it was necessary for growth. So I would say it was rough. I also didn't have like someone who looked like me in my team, and that usually helps with the transition. Like you can imagine when you join a company as a fresh grad, your first friends are probably the people who you join on the same day, like your graduate recruitment companions, colleagues. Those become your closest of friends. So you can imagine if you join when you're alone and everyone else is not new, yeah, it's a bit rough. But you learn how to deal with it. You learn how to find your way around. After a while, you learn to ask questions. And you learn how to survive and actually thrive. Yeah. Second question is, would you recommend moving abroad? I would. Even if I've painted a very grim picture, I would recommend moving abroad if that's something you would want to explore. I think it definitely offers you a lot of opportunities for growth. And I don't mean just career growth, which of course like is a good thing. It also offers you a lot of moments for personal growth because you learn to be independent in a way you probably wouldn't have if you stay in Kenya. Because you know you have your family there, you have friends that you know, you have routines that you're used to. If you want to buy tomatoes, you know exactly where you go. If you want to buy an umbrella, you know exactly where to go. But then when you move to a whole other country and suddenly you don't know where you're supposed to go to buy tomatoes, yeah, it instills a whole new level of independence, confidence, once you figure those things out by yourself. Because you will have to figure out, where do you buy tomatoes? Where do you buy an umbrella? If you wanted to send a letter, how do you do that here? That type of thing. Things that you actually take for granted. How do you use the bus system in the new place? Stuff like that. So once you figure out such things on your own, it brings this level of independence that you can kind of get through life. by yourself, which is not a bad thing. It also allows you to meet a lot of people from a lot of different cultures, and it opens up your eyes to issues that you probably would never have really cared about if you were back home. So really, just a lot of moments for growth, personal growth, career growth, growth in your network as well, because you get to meet a lot of people at work. If you're going to school, yeah, your network definitely grows. So lots of growth. I recommend it, 10 over 10. There's actually a few ways to look into moving abroad. If you want me to do a video around that, I could. Just let me know. Next question is, what advice can you give to someone who is coming there for the first time? I assume the US. The first thing that comes into mind is look for Kenyans. I think this works whichever country you go to. Really just seek to find community of people who look like you. It could be Africans, if you're lucky, it could be Kenyans. Because hanging out with people who look like you, speak like you, have similar backgrounds will bring some form of normalcy to a life that otherwise would not look normal. So definitely find community, and they will plug you on how to get around things, like where do you buy unga ugali in this country that you're in, because you just can't go to the supermarket and find that. Or maybe you want, there might be even like Kenyan stores around, or like Kenyan restaurants that would offer you some nostalgia, some comfort when you want to eat samosas or something. That type of thing. So that would be my main piece of advice, is find community, whatever that means to you. Whether it means finding people from your home country, whether it means being intentional about making friends. Really just don't cocoon, which is something I did. Don't cocoon yourself and hide. Get out there, make friends. Next question was, how was your journey starting out? That's an interesting question, because I still feel like I'm starting out right now. But I guess you mean before I moved here. So I moved here as a new grad, so I don't really have an elaborate background back home. But I did do internships in 2 audit firms. Should we call them audit firms? Yeah. And other than that, my other experiences, I did briefly do a small stint at a startup, a tech startup, when I was in, was it second year or what? I also had a whole career in theater. I was a theater actress professionally, which is interesting to think about. For a few years there, and I was actually convinced that I might pursue an acting career, but I guess that did not happen. I sometimes wonder what would happen if that's the direction I chose to go. That would have been an interesting career path. But yeah, never say never. Maybe one day I'll find a theater group here and join it. But yeah, that's more or less my background. I don't think there's anything else that's interesting about it. I did a degree in computer science, not very interesting in terms of like my area of work. It's kind of expected. It's not a very interesting background in that sense. Next question. Did it matter which stack you knew before, or did you learn whilst working? It did not matter what stack I knew. It did not matter which languages I knew, which frameworks I knew before. In fact, when interviewing, they allowed us to pick whichever language you wanted to use for the interviews. Because the interviews are geared towards algorithms and data structures. So if you're doing computer science, pay attention in those classes. That is what all the interviews were about, except the HR interview, which was behavioral. But the 2 technical interviews were data structures and algorithms, and they allowed you to pick whatever language you wanted to use, because really it isn't about the language, it's more about how you think, how you problem solve. So they are more interested in that. And actually, except the online technical interview, the other ones are on a whiteboard, so there's no syntax checking actually. So I chose Python. I don't know if that's useful in any way. That's just the language I had chosen towards the end of my degree. So I do a lot of my assignments towards the end in Python. So that's the language I chose to do my interviews in. And did I learn everything else whilst working? Yes. In fact, the first team that I joined, even actually the current team, they used languages and frameworks that I had never used before. They use a lot of C#, which I had never written in my life. A lot of .NET as a framework that I have never used in my life before. The first team did use Python a little bit because it was a machine learning team. So that was helpful. At least there was one part of the code base that was familiar, but everything else, nope. In fact, the interesting thing about working for a big tech company is that there's a lot of internal tools and internal languages, internal frameworks. So even if you learn everything out there, you probably will still be caught off guard once you join, because they will have their own internal tools for a lot of stuff. And this is true for a lot of the big companies. So whether it's what they use for DevOps will be internal, it might be even the database that they use is internal, and the syntax of the query language is internal. A lot of stuff. So yeah, you really just have to embrace learning. Because yeah, that's been true for my entire career so far. I'm always learning new things. The next question is, if you were to start learning coding afresh, how would you do it? If I was to begin afresh, I think I would start early. I began writing real code after high school. There was some program called something, I forgot, at a school called Immobiles. So we went in there. Actually, I think we got like partial scholarships from high school. I don't know what competition we took part in high school. I did computer studies in high school. So I don't know what competition we did, and then we got like partial scholarships. So after high school, the period where people will do like accounting courses like CPA or like computer classes before you go into uni. Since going for computer packages wasn't like an option for me, because we had learned all that stuff, Excel, Word, whatever else in school, I chose to go and do that thing because we had partial scholarships, instead of like now going and doing a CPA or an ACCA. So yeah, that was the first time I learned how to code for real, and it was fun. It was actually a pretty nice, chill learning environment. I enjoyed it. We did Java for mobile apps, but not Android. We did like Java for the old mobile apps. You remember the ones for Nokia's? So really, the technology was more or less obsolete. Like we didn't need to learn that. We could have learned Android, but it was still a nice introduction to programming, and with quick results, because you write the code and then you're able to test it on the phone and see that it works. We also did a bit of web. I think for web we learned PHP, but we didn't learn any frameworks. So we didn't use Laravel. I think Laravel is the popular framework for PHP. We didn't learn Laravel. We just learned raw PHP and of course HTML, CSS. We didn't do JavaScript at that point. I don't think so. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice. Just a nice slow introduction over maybe 3 months, 4 months. And then my next experience in programming was now my degree. So of course we did a lot of programming in my computer science degree, and I actually like the way I learned it, because we learned many different languages for many different uses, quote unquote. So for example, we learned we used MATLAB for graphics. We learned C. I think C was the first language we learned for intro to programming. We learned C++ for object-oriented programming. We learned a lot of languages. We even did web all over again. Which other languages did we learn? There's a lot of that kind of stuff where you do a lot of programming and different languages, different frameworks. And the thing that I like about doing the computer science degree is that you also learn the fundamentals of computer science. So the algorithms and data structures, which is stuff that doesn't come very naturally to people. So at least when you're doing it in your degree, you have time to battle with it, and you have a whole semester to ask questions, to go and watch YouTube videos of other people explaining it, to do assignments and try figure it out and not be able to figure it out, and then one person in your group is able to figure it out, so they explain it to all of you, that type of thing. So it allows you to learn those fundamentals in like a, in a nice conducive environment, as opposed to trying to learn it right before interviews, which can be super hectic. You're probably already outside school, maybe you have a job, and then you're trying to learn algorithms and data structures on your own free time, and there's no one to bounce off ideas with. You're just using videos and doing questions online. I think that being in a classroom was a better so I think I've gone off the tangent, but the question was, would I do anything differently? The only thing I would do differently is start early. If I knew like this career was the way that it is, I would have begun learning programming probably even in primary school, because there's a way you can simplify the concepts and start learning early. So you can start learning the concepts, like how to loop a thing, how to use conditionals, writing pseudocode, just small things. I would start early. That way, by the time I'm in uni, it's just coming naturally. You're now just learning the deeper fundamentals and newer languages and frameworks. But at least you'll be comfortable with the idea of how do you tell a computer to do something. So that's what I would say. Next question is, any advice for people wanting to transition from a non-tech background into tech? The first question I would ask you to ask yourself is, what role in tech do you want to transition into? When you say, I feel like the word tech is loaded here, because I guess working in tech could mean one or two things. Either you mean the tech industry, or you mean a technical role in any industry. So it's kind of a loaded question. So if the answer to this question is that you want to move into the tech industry, then you need to figure out which role do you want to move into. Do you want to be a dev? Do you want to be a PM? Do you want to be a product marketer? Do you want to be what else? Do you want to go into tech sales? Do you want to be HR? Do you want to be, because really it's just tech industry. It's like it has all the other roles as any other industry. You don't have to be a software engineer to work in the tech industry. You could be a salesperson working in the tech industry. You could be a communications person or a marketing person or a project manager or a whatever else working in the tech industry. So if that's what you want to do, then in that case, I would say just probably it would be a job change just like any other. So I'm assuming if that's the approach that you're going in, you're probably already in that role. You're probably already in HR, but just in a different company. Or you're already in marketing, but in a different company. So in this case, then the rules of changing companies is what you would use. So you would try and network with people in your role in the tech industry. Find other people in HR who are in the tech industry. Find people in marketing who are in the tech industry. Attend conferences and stuff like that so that you can network. And then when a job comes up, you have to monitor like all those job boards, definitely. And then when a job comes up, you can ask for a referral from this network that you have built, because they say when someone refers you internally, you have higher chances of making it to the first interview. Yeah. And then I think for most of the non-technical roles, like if it's HR or law or marketing, a lot of the fundamentals remain the same. Like marketing for tech is still marketing, so you don't have to upskill necessarily. But if there's differences, for example, maybe in law there might be particular differences in tech law versus maybe litigation or whatever, maybe you may want to do a certification or something, or attend, I don't know, whatever it means to upskill to make your law degree more inclined to tech, or whichever other degree that you have more inclined into tech. But I think for most roles, like, you know, if you think of HR and the rest, I don't think there's much that you have to do to move from HR in like an audit firm to HR in a tech company. But maybe I'm the one who doesn't fully understand. So that's the first aspect. The second one is if you want to move into a technical role, and technical, but I mean like coding, a coding role or coding adjacent role in tech. So for this case, since you're saying transitioning from a non-tech to tech, I would assume you're probably not a dev in a different company. You probably haven't even done computer science, maybe. This is just my assumption, but you want to transition into being a software engineer, or maybe a technical PM, or an architect, or whatever else, a web dev, all that type of stuff. For this one, I would say training is the only way to get your foot in the door, because the interviews for these roles are highly technical. So the only way to get through the interview is to have your skills down. So you will have to upskill in whichever way works for you best. Whether it means you do online courses and self-teach, or it means you join a boot camp or a certification course, or you do a whole other degree if you're or change your degree if you're still in uni. Maybe you haven't graduated, maybe you might find a way to, what's it called, transfer into a different degree. Really, the answer to this question that you'll have to upskill in that role. So if you want to be a web developer and you don't have any skill, you'll have to learn the web developer skills. And then another general piece of advice I'd give for the general question, whether you're trying to move into the tech industry or into a technical role, I would advise looking into the company that you're already in. If you're already in employment, that is. So if you're already in a company, find ways that you can learn those skills on the job that you are right now. So whether it means speaking to your current manager and saying, I am interested in this and this role, is there a way we can incorporate those skills in my current job? That way you can start getting the work experience early. If you're still in school, then I would say start doing internships and stuff like that. That way by the time you graduate, you have some work experience, or do personal projects and put them on your GitHub. That way you have experience. But really seek hands-on experience together with the learning and the upskilling. So hands-on experience will be useful as well when you're trying to find a job afterwards. I don't know if I've done that question justice, but it's difficult to answer this question in general without like specifics of someone's particular background and what exactly they're trying to get into in tech. But yeah, that's the general answer. You'll have to upskill. So figure out which role you want to get into, and then figure out what skills gap you have between where you are and that role, and then find a way to fill that skills gap. Whether it means going back to school, doing a certification, doing a boot camp, whatever it means, of finding work in your current area of employment that aligns with that stuff, or even moving internally, job shadowing someone, whatever it means, to gain experience in that area. The other thing would be to network with people in that role that you want, so that you can have a network to lean on when you do want to make the move. Alright, I paused the questions to finish my makeup. I think that's good for now. Scent of the day today is Le Labo's Another 13. I've already worn this all over, but I'm gonna top up just a little bit. Whoop! Yeah, that's today's scent of the day, and I've layered it with MFK's Baccarat Rouge. So I'm gonna also spray this a little bit, so that by the time I'm leaving, it will have diffused and all of that. Next, I'm gonna wear a wig. Oh, the joys of being black. You can just randomly change your hair whenever you want. I got a new wig. I think I'm naming her Natalia. This is such a casual get ready with me. Not me standing here in my wig cap after giving you advice and tech. Really, just doesn't get more real than this. Doesn't get more real than this. This is the other downside of working abroad. Doing hair is so expensive, so you kind of have to make do, because braiding is so damn expensive. And though it is time to break the bank, so I'm gonna stop here for now. Let me go and start my work day. Doing work for maybe an hour now, and I'm gonna answer another question. So the next question says, any advice for a beginner navigating the tech world amidst the massive layoffs? This is a tricky one. This macroeconomic times are scary, to say the least, for anyone. I feel like adulting, this is like adulting pro max. When you're young, you don't even think about recessions and all of this, but now suddenly it's the talk of everyone. The thing that comes to mind is networking with a lot of people. So making sure that your network is robust and that you are keeping up with the people that you need to keep up. Not just knowing them, but keep having checkpoints with those people. One of my mentors gave me advice about making sure that your network remains engaged. And he said that make sure you reach out for all the pivotal moments in that person's life. So if they post a promotion, go in there and respond. Don't just say congratulations like a very generic message. Respond thoughtfully, and maybe even plan a phone call to catch up, that type of thing. Like activate your network. If you ever need to use them, you're already top of mind in their heads, as opposed to having to crawl and ask for help when you haven't reached out to someone for 3 years, which is awkward. I'm going to catch up with you guys right before I leave, when I'm about to call my Uber, and then we'll go to the office, have the meeting, have some lunch, come back. I think I have maybe 4 more questions left, so I'll sprinkle those in between the rest of the day. But yeah, so far so good. I'll see you then. It's almost 10:30 and I'm gonna leave now for the office because I need to be there by 11. This is the full fit of the day. Some sneakers, black pants, nice official formal looking top. And yeah, my Natalia hair. I'm loving my alter ego today. Right, so let's head into the office. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? I'm good too.
Wanji.
Yes.
Where are you from, Wanji?
Kenya.
Kenya.
Yes.
Habari?
Nzuri nzuri.
Mzima. Nimeona hii njia sana sasa huyu.
I'm back home now. It's 2 p.m. That was a lovely meeting in person. We had some pizza afterwards. Yeah, time for me to get back to work. I will catch up with you a little later to answer the rest of the questions. I think I have maybe 3 questions left, and then wrap up the video and then edit it tonight. And then it goes up this weekend. This is the dedication to get this video to you guys. I hope you appreciate the dedication. All right, it's 5 p.m., end of the workday. Let me round up the last 3 questions. 3? Yeah, 3 questions. And then wrap up this video. And then edit it tonight and probably tomorrow night so that it can go up on Saturday morning. So the next question is, what tech skills are the best to start on as someone who wants to change their career to tech? This is, again, a very general question, so I can't give you specific advice without knowing your specific situation. So I will go back to what I said earlier in the other question for moving into the tech industry versus a tech career, like a technical role. It depends. That's the question. It depends on what role you're trying to get and what role you're currently in and the difference between the two. So for example, this answer would be different for someone who is a web developer and is trying to become a mobile app developer. And it's different for someone who's in law and wants to become a security engineer. Like the answer is different. So the general answer will be find out which role you want to end up in, whether it's a software engineer or a product manager, project manager, architect, front-end designer, all of that. Whichever role you want. And then figure out what is the distance between where you are right now and the skills required for that role. And then those are the skills that you would need to learn. The next question says, did you experience imposter syndrome during the transition from school to work, especially during technical interviews? And the answer to this, of course, is yes. Imposter syndrome is probably the one thing that I have battled against for the longest time, and I'm still battling against. But I am going to release myself from those shackles. I am working to release myself from those shackles. But yes, definitely, school versus work is very different. I mean, it's very easy to recover when you make a mistake in school. It's a learning, conducive environment. You have your friends to lean on. So if you don't understand something, it's very easy like to go to your group discussion and figure it out as a group, as opposed to when you move into the workplace where you're probably the only new person, or maybe you're a few new people, but you've all been put in very different departments. So it is different, and it's easy for imposter syndrome to sneak in. But the thing that you need to remind yourself is that you are deserving of the role that you have right now. All right, Final question. Which tech skills do you apply in your day-to-day work? Like the programming languages and frameworks. So in my day-to-day work, I am in engineering systems slash DevOps slash, they call it production engineering. There's very many different ways of calling this role. Let's see. Which languages do I use? We use C#, lots of scripting, languages like PowerShell. What else? A lot of config languages like YAML. What else? Frameworks.NET because of C#. I was in a different team before where we used Python. I have seen teams that use all sorts of things really. It's a big company. People use all sorts of languages. There's teams that use Java. There's some internal languages that people out there have never heard of. There's a point when I was doing a lot of querying and data analysis. I was using a lot of querying languages and a lot of dashboards and stuff like that. So really, there's a whole myriad of languages and frameworks that people use in this role. And the thing that I have come to realize is to focus on the fundamentals as opposed to the tools. So for example, if you're learning databases, focus on the fundamentals of writing efficient queries as opposed to the syntax of, say, SQL. Because you might get employed somewhere and they're not using SQL. They're using a different querying language that looks slightly similar to SQL, but not exactly. But as long as you know the fundamentals of querying data, you will figure out the syntax. It's as easy as doing a quick search on a browser, like how to write something in this language, and then there, bam. Yeah, and I think that is it. That is all the questions I got. Thank you so much for asking all these questions. I hope the answers were helpful. I did try answering these questions to the best of my ability, given the little context in the small question. If you do have specific questions, you can always DM me. I make time to respond as soon as I can. Even if it takes me 3 weeks, I will respond to questions within reason. Of course, if you're asking strange things, I will not respond, but within reason, I do make time to respond to people. I am gonna stop talking now, wrap this up so that I can edit it and then you can see it this weekend. Yeah. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what else you want to see on my channel, what type of videos you want to see, what topics you want to see covered. Please let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all the good jazz, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.